So this divorce is so bad that it's still in the news. And it's not the only separation that I've seen recently that's in the news. I want to start off by saying I want you to see the difference here, um, because this is my opinion. A lot of times when these celebrities they split up, and what I've noticed is that a lot of times it looks like when the woman is black or a woman of color, that she gets beat up on and they just chew her up and spit her out. And a similar divorce could be happening to a couple that's white. And if the white woman decides to take half or more than half of the man's money, you don't hear anybody say anything about that. And I noticed that. That seems to be an ongoing thing. And it's just as if one person is more deserving of something than another. And I feel that's wrong because both of them are divorced, maybe bitter divorces. We don't know how they are going to end up, but both women may be asking for some type of spousal support. And how is it that it's okay for a white woman to ask for millions and you don't hear anybody say not a peep about that? And when a black woman asks for a million, or she asks for maybe under a million, she's chewed up, called every name that you can think of that's derogatory, and they chew her up and spit her out. And she's on every black male dominated radio or social media show so that they can pretty much throw her underneath the bus. So Dr. Dre is threatening to call guests who attended wedding to testify in the divorce. Okay? So this is between him and Nicole. So this is by Abiba Adams. So this divorce already, we know that they were splitting and it's not looking good. So now Dr. Dre is demanding, he wants a subpoena to subpoena those 20 people to prove that Nicole Young wasn't coerced into signing a prenup. So this is getting really muddy. So in new court documents, legendary hip hop producer Andre Dr. Dre, as what we know him to be, Young, is requesting the names, the current addresses, and phone numbers of everyone who had attended his wedding to Nicole Young in 1996. So the couple married in Hawaii in front of approximately 20 guests. So this is Andre Young, better known as Dr. Dre, and this is his wife, or well, what we would call now estranged wife, Nicole Young. And this was in 2016, a premiere of a Sony Pictures Classics Miles Ahead in Beverly Hills. So Dre is threatening to subpoena those guests to prove his now estranged wife was not coerced into signing a prenuptial agreement. And Young has alleged that she signed the agreement under pressure, asserting Dr. Dre later tore it up in a romantic gesture, a claim the producer disputes. So he says he didn't tear it up. She's saying that he did. And so he now wants those guests involved in this bitter dispute. So their contentious divorce has continually escalated since Young's official filing in June, so it's gotten really bad. She has since filed new documents alleging rampant and repeated marital misconduct. And I'll be honest with you, I believe her. And I know some people are going to comment and say some nasty things, but I believe that this woman put up with a lot. And I'm going to be real about this. I believe that she put up with a lot because not only, for the family, the kids, and maybe she had feelings for him. Ultimately, I feel too because she felt like maybe that their marriage would stay together, and also feel this. Now, I don't know her personally, but I kind of feel as though that when you look at it from another view, some women, I believe the term is called marrying up. And I believe I used to hear a lot of that. I believe people still probably do that, but I used to hear a lot of it in the 80s and 90s where some women felt that they wanted to meet someone who had a lot of money, and having a lot of money and being married to somebody that is wealthy, or they're financially stable, is a safety net. It's security. It's going to sustain a relationship. But I feel like this: if you don't have anything to fall back on, and if all you have is that relationship and this person's money, eventually that person could, want to separate from you, and it may not work out. And, there's been even stories where the person has passed away and the family takes control of the money and leaves the woman with nothing. And if you don't have a career or something to fall back on, if you've been used to living the Malibu lifestyle, or you've been used to living like you're a Beverly Hills, celebrity, and then all of a sudden you have no career skills, you don't have any money saved, you don't have anything to fall back on, and you're used to living that high life, and now all that is going to be taken away. I mean, what is left? All that time you are married with that person, you have to find your way to safeguard yourself so that you won't be stuck and wind up finding out that this money you thought you were going to come into, it may not turn out like that. And I believe there were a lot of women that felt, or they were taught, or they felt that if they married up, that's going to be the long-term goal, and that doesn't always work out that way. And I remember even when you're in school, you know you have young women who they were taught that, you know through their mothers, to go to school, and then some were even taught not to even go to college, or if you go to college, don't pursue careers where you get higher pay, or you're doing better than the male, if you get what I'm talking about. And a lot of times that handicaps and cripples a woman, and if she is not able to survive on her own, and she's only dependent on that mate to do everything, and something like this happens, what we see in this article, you're in trouble. Now, you do have some situations where a woman is left a lot of money, but that doesn't happen to everyone. And so this article goes on to say, there's many articles now about these two, because um, It says Nicole Young says estranged husband Dr. Dre is using the virus to avoid deposition in divorce case. And so that's another article. So they've been back and forth. It's sort of like a mudslinging type of situation. And anybody that knows about this knew that this was coming. So it says, it goes on to read, their contentious divorce has continually escalated, and we see it. And so she has since filed new documents alleging rampant and repeated marital misconduct. Now, Young even alleges Dre may have fathered a child outside of their union. And he definitely has enough money to make a woman be quiet, doesn't he? At least he did. I don't know what his financial situation is now, but he sure is fighting in court against this woman to try to hold on to the money that he does have. And whatever he thinks that she took, or he's saying, claiming that she took, he's trying to fight for that. So in new filings, Young named 3 of her ex-alleged mistresses and asked for them to be called as witnesses in the forthcoming divorce trial. All 3 women have retained the same attorney. So this is getting really nasty. And there are actually 3 women that are mistresses and that were people that Dr. Dre was having extramarital affairs with. So in their premarital agreement, the Youngs alleged agreed to keep separate all income and property acquired before and during the marriage. So throughout their 24-year marriage, Dre's income topped $1 billion. So that's more than $1 million, of course, primarily through the creation of the sale of the Beats by Dre audio system, which is still to this day very popular and very highly used. So he has also filed for a protection order to prevent being forced to hand over additional documents to his soon-to-be former wife until after she is forced to sign a confidentiality agreement. So the couple has 2 children that are adults together, and while Dre has 4 other children with other women, including Andre Young Jr., who died of a drug overdose in 2009, Nicole Young has claimed that she played an important role in her husband's career and also contends that she co-owns the trademark to his name, as well as that of his classic 1992 album, The Chronic. So she's still sticking to that. So apparently there must be some truth in that for her to keep that story going. And he's refuting it, of course, and it must mean that money may end up being owed because of that. So this doesn't look like it's going to go away. Now, there was an article saying that he won another custody. It wasn't a custody thing. It was more like a court case that they had went to court, and then there was something else that had came up. I can't remember all of the details on that, but this looks like this is going to be an ongoing situation. Now, I wanted to switch over so you can see this right here. This is Harvey Weinstein's ex-wives succeed, and it says ex-wives succeed in freezing $4.5 million of his assets, and this is by Rosina Seberg. And so this right here, when this article came out, I was waiting to see if anybody would say anything about it. I hadn't heard anybody say anything. Maybe somebody did, but I hadn't heard enough of anybody saying anything about this. Harvey Weinstein's appeal against his rape and assault convictions has been hampered after the disgraced former movie mogul two ex-wives reportedly froze $4.5 million of his remaining assets. Weinstein, who was given a 23-year jail term at a court hearing in New York in March after being convicted of rape and sexual assault, is allegedly no longer able to pay the lawyers working on his appeal. He has two ex-wives, Eve Chilton, whom he divorced in 2004, and Georgina Chapman, a British fashion designer who left the producer after assault allegations started mounting against him, emerged in 2017, have reportedly taken legal action to freeze his accounts. So according to the Daily Mail, the pair filed a motion in April raising concerns over the state of Weinstein's finances and provided evidence in July in the form of private jet receipts and expenses related to his criminal trial. And so the two women also reportedly provided the court with evidence of large deposits that had been made into Weinstein's bank account, as well as a proof of insurance fees that he was set to collect. And so I believe there's a video, but I'm not going to play it. So court, you can look at it at your leisure. So court records seen by U.S. outlets found that a judge approved a move to freeze nearly $6 million, $4.5 million of Weinstein's assets. So Ms. Chilton, who has 3 children by Weinstein, who is 68 years old, is thought to have begun enforcement proceedings in 2018 amid fears over her ex-husband's child support payments as he faced criminal and civil legal battles from a number of his accusers. So it is unclear when Ms. Chapman, who finalized her divorce with Weinstein earlier this year, first became involved in the proceedings. So Judah Engelmeyer, a spokesman for Weinstein, said that the action had delayed the former Hollywood mogul's attempt to file an appeal against his conviction. So he's in poor health right now and hasn't been able to file his appeal because his ex-wives has frozen his accounts. So this is what was told to the Daily Mail. So his appeal probably will get filed at some point, but his lawyers are not doing the paperwork because he can't pay for it. And so this is Weinstein, and he was all reeled over on a walker. And so Mr. Engelmeyer added that Weinstein, who contracted coronavirus at the New York prison in March, is set to face further allegations of horrendous sexual abuse at a tribunal hearing in the UK. This week, the Court of Appeal allowed the tribunal by a woman who claimed that she was sexually assaulted and harassed by Weinstein to go forward. So a British woman described as an aspiring filmmaker and former assistant to Weinstein claims that people and companies associated with the producer knowingly helped him carry out unlawful acts of assault and harassment, and has brought employment tribunal claims against them in England. So the woman's barrister Jonathan Cohen QC said that the woman was making some of the most serious and astonishing allegations a tribunal will ever see. So the woman has claimed in court papers that Tim Sarnoff, one of Weinstein's former business associates, and others are liable for knowingly helping Weinstein to sexually harass her. So Mr. Sarnoff strenuously denies these claims, or her claims, that is. So this is him pictured here, Weinstein, and he supposedly caught coronavirus while he was incarcerated in a New York prison, and so his situation is getting worse by the minute. And so he has 2 white women who were able successfully to freeze his assets. And I have not heard not a peep out of nowhere. And I guess because they're looking at it as a situation, well, this man, he has several women that have come against him, and they claim that he sexually assaulted them. And he has a woman in the UK, and that's going to come out pretty soon. There's been a lot of allegations brought up against him. Now, this right here, he's got money, and he has fathered other children outside of the marriage of Nicole Young. And Nicole says that there's 3 women that are his mistresses. Now, I'm not surprised about that, because if you listen to Dr. Dre's music in the 90s or in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, in his music, a lot of the music that he has put out that has made him who he is was very disrespectful to women. A lot of it talked about sex. A lot of it talked about calling women out of their names, calling, the B word, the whole word, and any other word that you can think of that's derogatory towards women. It was extremely disrespectful, but somehow he was able to elevate himself to the level that he is now. And he's able to surpass all of that with nobody saying anything against it. And he's come into this, company where he makes these earphones, and they're very successful right now. And his wife is filing for divorce. He's filing or whatever. Or he doesn't. I don't know if it's a back and forth thing, but it's a bitter dispute. I know that much. But there's a mess load of videos on social media by a particular group of males putting this woman under the bus simply because the woman is put in a situation where she asks for spousal support. Now, what she asked for was quite a bit. Now, I know some people probably said, well, maybe she needs, what does she need this and that for? Now, I believe that's what the court case was actually, that she wasn't granted those things, because some of the stuff she was asking for, it looked like it was more about just something to just maybe take care of her, And from what I'm sensing from that is that she lived with this man and she put all her energy into this man, knowing that he was a cheater, knowing that, she's thinking that, well, he's got this money, he's going to support me, this is a long haul goal for me to be with him for the rest of my life, and it didn't turn out like that. And so now she's fighting to get whatever she can out of him, and it's not going over well. That's the way this feels to me. But to throw her under the bus, I think is wrong too, because she, is a woman of color. She's an African American woman. At last I checked, that's what it said she was. And I feel like a lot of these marriages like this, when it has to do with black couples and it's a black woman demanding money, she's put in a position to be all these names that are in his record in the chronic and all those old records where he belittles women and primarily women of color. And it just, to me, I just think it's disgusting. And there's so many videos on social media, and I had some mixed emotions about some of this. I feel like women should try to do things for themselves so that if they are in a relationship, that if they have to divorce at some point in their life, that they're able to take care of themselves if they have to live single for a while. I don't think that it's a good idea to really marry up if you don't have any skills, you don't have anything to fall back on, because it's easy to get accustomed to a lifestyle and get used to having security guards and a team of staff working for you and people fixing your breakfast, and maybe you living like you're in Beverly Hills or whatnot, and you're living a high lifestyle, and then to realize one day that that could all be taken away from you. I don't know how people could live like that knowing they don't have anything to fall back on and assuming that their life is going to always be like that. Because you always have to think in the back of your mind, what if this happens? What if that happens? And a lot of people say, let's not think about the what ifs. No, you should think about what ifs. Because like what we're dealing with now, a pandemic, nobody would have said, well, what if there's a pandemic? Um, Nobody was thinking that this was going to happen. But the what if did happen. So it's the same thing. When you're in relationships, it's not guaranteed that those relationships are going to last. And it doesn't mean that the person is always just a situation like this where, they have, extramarital affairs, or they leave you, or they cheat on you. They could die. You could be with somebody, they could die. Now you're by yourself. What are you going to do? It's a lot of things. The family might be not really liking you. They might take his money and freeze it away from you. Just like what these wives did with Weinstein's money. You know, um, there's a lot of different things that can happen. And so I think some people didn't think about the what ifs. And that's the problem with this society. They train women um, to just get married and then not have anything to fall back on. And fortunately, we have a lot of women who they do have their own. You know, there's a lot of women who have they've gotten smart. They've acquired maybe school, some kind of trade or professional career, but you still have these women who were trained to marry up and just rely on the sole income of the male. And I believe that that's like a patriarchal thing. It's traditional that the man is to take care of the woman, and that's how it has normally been taught to some females. But the problem is when the relationships don't last and they end bitter like this, what do you have to fall back on? And so I really do believe that young ladies should have some skills. They should have some kind of what if goals or backup plans in case things do not work out. And that's all I'm saying. There are rude people online who say mean things about women in general. They don't like to see women with strength. They don't like to see women who are successful, women who have high paying positions. I believe that they would teach girls not to be good at math, to be good at cooking, to be good at homemaking at one time. And that is the reason why you had boys were good at the math because they were in hopes that they would get the jobs to be, high paying jobs so they could take care of the family, like engineer or somebody like Elon Musk, doing things like that, where they're so high paid they can take care of their wife and maybe two other people, two other relationships, which is wrong. I feel like that is not a good, you should train all kids, no matter what gender, to be successful in every way. Don't limit people because of their gender, because you feel that the woman should be dependent on a man for everything. Because look what happens when that's all she has, and then she can't achieve that. Because it doesn't work for everybody the same way it does for the Weinstein wives. You see that in this world we live in, some women are able to acquire money no matter what happens. And others, if they ask for anything, they get thrown on the bus, under the bus, over the bus. And a lot of times it's by your own people that do it. And it's usually some black males. There's a select few that get online and can't wait to see something like this so they can just talk down on black females. And when it's white women freezing your assets, you don't hear them say nothing. They say nothing. And they are ready to jump at those women and marry them in a heartbeat. And look at what this woman will freeze your assets and anything else they can freeze. And so I'd be more afraid of this than I would this one, because she can only do so much. The judge told her no, and one of the cases, and she asked for, I guess, spousal support, and that didn't work out too well for her, did it? But these women, they getting everything they asked for. And then some. 2 different women on 1 man. So I'm just telling you, that's the way this world is. I think it's unfair. I think if you're going to treat one group one way, you treat the other one the same way. I'm going to let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening.